and welcome to Jason's Macintosh Museum. I'm Jason, your host, and what we're looking at today is a Macintosh Powerbook 100 from 1991. Now, the Powerbook 100, you could say, was Apple's first proper laptop computer, in that it was the first portable Macintosh that had a laptop-style case and one that was sufficiently small and light for proper portable use. Now, of course, the Macintosh Portable was in fact the very first battery-powered portable Macintosh that was made, that came out in 1989. But if you've ever seen one, in fact, I've done a video on one myself, you should have a look at it. If you've ever seen one, you'll know that it's physically very large and very heavy. So it had rather limited appeal as a portable laptop computer. But the Powerbook 100 was different. Basically, what Apple did to make the Powerbook 100 is they took a Macintosh Portable and redesigned it into a much smaller case, as you see here. Now, in fact, the Powerbook 100 has a unique case design as compared to other models of Powerbook, because when Apple launched the Powerbook series back in 1991, they launched three different models. There was the Powerbook 100, which was the entry-level model. There was the Powerbook 140, which was the mid-range model, and then the Powerbook 170, which was the high-end model. Now, the Powerbook 140 and 170 had the same design of case. In fact, almost all other Powerbooks in the 100 series, such as the 140, 145, 150, 160, 170, 180, all have basically the same case and the same internal layout. The differences between them are primarily the CPUs that they used and the screens that they used. But the Powerbook 100 is different. Its case is unique to this model. And that actually is because Apple themselves did not build the Powerbook 100. It was actually built by Sony, because what Apple wanted to do was they wanted to concentrate on building their higher-end laptops, such as the 140 and 170, and those were designed and built by Apple. But with the 100, the 100 was developed to allow Apple to offer a entry-level laptop computer. So, given that they already had a laptop or a portable, i.e. the Macintosh Portable, they went to Sony and said, here's a Macintosh Portable, we want you to basically rebuild this into a laptop case. And that's what Sony did. So as a result, the Powerbook 100 has quite a few features in common with the Macintosh Portable, such as the CPU, and also the fact that it uses a lead-acid battery, which, as opposed to other Powerbooks which used NiCads or lithium-ion batteries. So a few facts and figures on the Powerbook 100. It was launched in October of 1991 alongside the Powerbook 140 and 170, and it was discontinued in September of 1992. It had a 16 MHz Motorola 68000 CPU. It had 2 megabytes of memory, expandable up to 8 megabytes, and it came with a 20 or I think also a 40 megabyte hard disk. But the one thing that you don't get on a Powerbook 100 is a floppy drive. Because of the slimline case that was used for the Powerbook 100, there was no room to fit a floppy drive. So what Apple decided to do was to offer an external floppy drive that you could plug in when required. As for the screen, you have a black and white LCD with a resolution of 640 by 400 pixels, the same resolution as the Macintosh Portable, but a slightly smaller screen. But in addition, the Powerbook 100 was the first Powerbook to use a passive matrix LCD. So whereas on the Portable, they used an active matrix LCD, which made it very clear, very bright, but also very expensive, for the 100, they chose to use a passive matrix, aka Super Twist LCD, which was much cheaper to produce. But in fact, even though it is a passive matrix screen, the quality is actually surprisingly good. And just like the newer models of the Powerbook and the Macintosh Portable, in fact, you had a built-in pointing device, in this case a trackball. So that's about all we can say about the PowerBook 100. So at this point, we'll have a closer look at it. Here's the front view of the Macintosh PowerBook 100. And as you can see, unlike the Macintosh Portable, it looks a lot more like a normal laptop. It's certainly a lot smaller and lighter than the Portable as well. In fact, just to show you the difference in size, I'm going to grab a Macintosh Portable and put it alongside. I think this will illustrate just how much of a difference there is. So you can see that even though these two machines have more or less the same specifications in terms of processing power, memory, and storage, there is a massive difference in the size and also in the weight. Now, of course, the Portable does have a larger screen, but apart from that, the only real benefit to using a Portable is that you have an active matrix LCD and that you have better battery life because the battery is physically larger in the Portable. You also have a built-in floppy drive, but other than that, the 100 gives you almost exactly the same functionality, but in a much smaller and lighter package. In fact, you can see, if I put them on top of it, you can see the difference there. You can see how much smaller the PowerBook 100 really is. And it's certainly much, much lighter. I would say this probably weighs about, maybe 1 kilo, 1.5 kilos, whereas the Portable weighs about 7. So quite a difference there. Okay, so back to the PowerBook 100. So starting from the top, we've got the screen latch up here that you slide across to open the screen. We have the screen itself here, which is a black and white, a passive matrix LCD with a resolution of 640 by 400 pixels. We have the Macintosh PowerBook 100 name tag down here in the Apple logo. Over here we have the brightness and contrast controls for the LCD. Down here we have the keyboard, which is a standard Apple keyboard. And I believe, like other models of PowerBook, that the keys are in fact the same size as you would find on a conventional Apple keyboard for a desktop, which is nice. And here we have the built-in trackball. And notice where it's positioned. Unlike on the Macintosh Portable, where you had the trackball on either one side of the keyboard or the other, what they did with the PowerBook was to bring the trackball to the front and put it in the middle. So that way there was no issue with being left-handed versus right-handed, and it also meant that you had palm rests on either side of the trackball that you could use while you were typing, which was very nice. And over here is the battery compartment. And as I mentioned, the PowerBook 100 uses a sealed lead acid battery, which unfortunately on this one, of course, is dead. They probably all are by now. But to remove it, you simply slide this little catch across, and you pull the battery out like that. So that's the battery. Let's put that back in. So off to the side, we have the reset and interrupt switches over here. And then at the back, we have another feature that was introduced on the PowerBooks, which is a adjustable tilt mechanism for the back of the PowerBook. So by rotating this little knob here, you actually extend out a little foot that raises the back of the laptop up, which puts it at a more comfortable angle when you're using it on a desk. Now on the back, we have the power inlet port and a battery isolation switch. Now, this was used to isolate the internal lead-acid battery from the system. So if you had to put the PowerBook 100 away for an extended period of time and it wasn't on charge, then to prevent the battery from discharging, you could flip this switch to disconnect the battery from the system. Because remember that using a sealed lead-acid battery, if that battery discharges too far below its nominal voltage, it becomes completely unusable. So Apple thought ahead and put that switch on there. Over from that, we have the door that it covers all of the ports on the back. So if we open that, we have the ADB port here. We have a serial port here. This port is for the external floppy drive, and this port is for an external SCSI device. And we also have audio out. And over here, we have the backup battery compartment. And if you open it like this, you can see that if you place, I think it's 3 1.5 volt lithium button cells in that little holder, that allows the parameter RAM and also the system RAM and RAM disk to remain, well, it protects the contents of the system RAM, the parameter RAM and the RAM disk when the power is turned off or when you're changing the main lead-acid battery. Mind you, it's important that even though they probably don't corrode or leak like the cylindrical cells do, if you have a Powerbook 100, I would not recommend keeping batteries in there just in case. So that's the door there. So that's about all we have. The exterior of the Powerbook 100. So what we'll do now is we'll take it apart. Okay, well the first step to taking a Powerbook 100 apart is to separate the screen from the main casing. So to do that, let's turn it over. We have 3 screws that you have to remove, and we'll do that now. So I'll just tip that over and they should all fall out. Oh, there goes the door. So what will happen now, as you can see, is that the screen frame or hinge will pull away from the main case. So to disconnect the screen, you unplug the connector just here, and then you can lift the screen out of the system. The next step is to take the keyboard out. To do that, you lift up on the back of the keyboard and then shift it forward to unhook it from the front. You can tip it over and carefully unhook these 2 ribbon cables on the back here. Now it's important that you don't pull on the cables without releasing the little tabs on either side, the connectors here and here. What I'm referring to is to give you a better view. Just have to unhook that side and then that side, and then the cable comes out with almost no effort. Because obviously if you damage or tear these ribbon cables, they can be almost impossible to fix. So that wouldn't be a good thing. So once you've unhooked them, you can take the keyboard out. Okay. Now at this point we should probably remove the battery, although this battery is dead, so it won't really do any harm, but we'll take it out anyway. So we'll slide the little tab across. I'll use the screwdriver for that. There we go. Pull the battery out. Now the next step is to take off the front panel, and once you have the keyboard out, that will simply lift up from the back and it comes out just like that. Now we'll take the trackball out, There's one connector here to remove, just undo that there, and the trackball assembly lifts out of the system. Now we'll take the hard disk out. So to do that, we need to unhook the data cable here, and just like the connectors for the keyboard, it's a ribbon cable, and you have to pry up on either side of the connector to release the ribbon cable. And once you do, the ribbon cable is free. Now to take the drive out, we have metal clips or spring clips, one in each corner of the drive. So if you carefully push on the spring clip while pulling up on the drive, it's a bit hard to do. Push in on the clip as you pull up. There we are. So once you've released one side, the other side will be released and you can pull the hard disk out. What we'll do now is we'll now remove the CPU and memory card, which sits here. To do that, you simply pull up on the card carefully to release the connectors. There's one connector here and one connector over here, and then the CPU card comes right out. Now we have the main logic board to take out. Now to do that, there are several screws to remove. There's a screw back here, one over here, one over here, and if we pull up on this shield, there are two over here. So once you take those screws out, you can lift the logic board out of the system. But one other point, you should always open the battery compartment over here and move that out of the way before you try and lift the board out. So we'll take those screws out and we'll take the board out. Right, all the screws are now removed, so we should be able to lift up on the board and carefully lift it out. So there is the logic board out of the system. And that's about it. So what we'll do now is have a closer look at some of these parts that we just took out. Here's the logic board out of the Macintosh Powerbook 100. And I should mention at this point that don't be surprised when you don't see the CPU or memory on this board, because if you remember, they're actually located on a special card that connects to this board, which we'll have a look at in a moment. But as for the logic board, starting up the top left, we've got the contact for the backup batteries. The battery holder would sit inside here. We've got the various ports up here. We've got the power inlet and battery isolation switch there. This is the connector for the internal modem, if one is fitted. Various other components there. Let's see. There's the keyboard connectors there. Oh, that's the connector for the display, just there. The components there, reset interrupt switches over there. Now we have a couple of expansion slots here. The one on the left is for a memory expansion card, because on the Powerbook 100 you can expand it up to 8 megabytes in size. And the connector on the right is actually one of the connectors used by the special CPU and memory card that I'll show you in a moment. I think we've got, that's the display controller there, I think. Some other components there, not sure what they are. I think that's the SCSI controller there, I think. Not sure what that is. Some various switching transistors there. I have recapped this board, as you can probably tell, so that's why there are radioelectrolytics all scattered all over the place. There's the other connector for the CPU card. What else? That's probably some glue logic there. More glue logic there. That's the connector for the internal hard disk there. Some more components there. That's the connector for the trackball there. If we go across here, I think that's probably all we can really talk about for the logic board. So what we'll do is we'll now have a look at the CPU and memory card that plugs into this board. So here is the CPU and memory card. So we've got the connector up here for the logic board. Here we have the two ROM chips, and down here we have the 2 megabytes of memory that comes as standard with the Powerbook 100, and the CPU, the Motorola 68HC1000, which is the CMOS version of the Motorola 68000, running at 16 megahertz. So that board obviously is required to run the Powerbook 100, so if you don't plug this in, then of course the system will not start. So now we'll have a quick look at the hard disk. So in fact, the Powerbook 100, along with the 140 and 170, were the first Apple computers to use 2.5-inch hard disks. In this case, it's a SCSI drive, and it's a Connor CP2025, and it's the original Apple 20 megabyte unit. So that's the drive there. So you see on the back we've just got the standard drive controller logic there, and being SCSI, it has the 50-pin connector here, and it also has the connector over here for, I believe that's for the power. So here's the Trackball module. Not much to really talk about there, but it's actually made by Logitech, surprisingly. It's funny, I thought that would be something that Apple would have made in-house, but it's actually a Logitech unit. So we've got the micro switch there for the button, and the micro switch up there for the other button, and the trackball assembly itself. So if you need to get access to the actual mechanism to clean it out, you simply rotate this ring around the trackball, and when you do, that ring comes away, the ball will come out, and you can now see the actual rollers inside. So it's worthwhile cleaning these out every so often because they can pick up dirt and dust, and you'll find that the trackball becomes very stiff or very hard to use. That's probably the reason why. Okay, we'll have a quick look at the battery while it's here. So this is the battery from the, whoops, zoom. This is the battery from the Powerbook 100, and strangely enough though, it does not mention on here the fact that it's a sealed lead acid battery, but it certainly is. And as a result, finding a battery for a Powerbook 100 that will actually take a charge is, well, well, it's almost impossible. This one certainly did. It was only running at about, I think about 3 volts. And just like the Macintosh Portable, the nominal voltage for the batteries on this is about 6 to 6.5 volts. So that's the battery. You've got the contacts on the back here. But I don't know if anyone's been successful in rebuilding these batteries, but even so, I've not seen anybody or any replacement batteries are available for these, which is a bit of a shame, because at least with the Portable, you can adapt a standard 6-volt cell, but not so with the Powerbook 100. And there's the keyboard, standard keyboard, really nothing to talk about there. So basically that concludes the first part of the video series on the Macintosh Powerbook 100. So in the next video, I'll reassemble the Powerbook 100 and we'll start it up and demonstrate a couple of old Macintosh games. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you for watching.